With the arrival of Modern Horizons 3, there are a plethora of new fantastic cards for the 99 in Commander. That said, I see a small group of cards that are consistently spoken about in the top tier, be that medallions, fetches, Eldrazi, or flares, and many fantastic cards that don't get spoken about very much. So, that's what this video is about. Some of the cards that I'm most excited about that I haven't seen discussed very much. That comes with a big disclaimer that these won't necessarily be the best, and you might very well have seen one or two of these cards being discussed elsewhere, but I haven't, and I'm very excited about them. First up is Marionette Apprentice. Simply, a new Aristocrat style creature that should fit very well into any Aristocrat style deck that you're running. Along the lines of Mirkwood Bats and Dia's Nightblade, this is going to fit snugly into my Barbarous Saga deck, and I can't wait to play it. Next up, we have a Warren Soul Trader, a 3/3 for 3 mana that can fit into so many decks. It's a zombie goblin wizard and has the ability you can pay 1 life and sacrifice another creature to create a treasure token. I already have a good home for it in my Merrin deck, but what's arguably much more busted is that it fuels a whole bunch of combos. Most notably, an infinite with Gravecrawler and Blood Honest. Another one for my Merrin deck is a white of the Reliquary. 2/2 for 2 mana, Vigilance, and it gets +1/+1 for each creature card in your graveyard. So there's a whole bunch of synergy with a lot of decks right there. As if that wasn't enough text, you can tap him and sacrifice another creature, search your library for any land card, and put it onto the battlefield tapped. Not a basic, not a swamp, but any land card you want. Maybe it's just me, but I've not heard of anybody talking about a card that may as well be called definitely not Light Paws. It wouldn't surprise me at all if Pearl Ear, Imperial Advisor, becomes a very popular mono white commander. Collective Resistance is just a whole heap of value. Each of those modes by themselves are probably good enough to see play. If being able to play any of them that you want, or all of them at the same time, is just too good. To me, Monstrous Vortex looks like a card that is really begging to have a deck built around it. Whether it's dinos, dragons, or just generic chonky boy good stuff, I feel like there's a deck just waiting to chain 5 power creatures discovering into each other endlessly. Invert Polarity is a card that I'm really excited about. Naturally, it has a home in any deck that cares about flipping coins. But even outside of that, at worst it's going to be a counterspell, and often you're going to steal your opponent's best stuff, like turning their removal back against them, or perhaps stealing their commanders, which is one way of dealing with Voja, or perhaps just stealing a card draw spell. I've always loved the Urza's land cycle, and Urza's Cave is no different. With the amount of incredibly strong non-basic lands we have in the format, 3 mana and sacrificing Urza's Cave seems like a small price to pay to be able to tutor for any of them. Party Thrasher is an incredible card for any decks that care about Impulse Draw, giving you both an engine and giving any non-creature spells you cast from exile Convoke. Commanders like Laelia and Rocco are going to be eating good. Charitable Levy is a fantastic fit for any creature heavy strategies, or perhaps even just decks that want to slow the early game down a bit. Before long, it turns into both a card and a land, making it some of the best white ramp that I think I've seen in a while. Lethal Throwdown is simply a really cheap and good removal spell for the right deck. Anything that's playing Aristocrat strategies or sacrificing creatures will work really well with the spell. Genesis can easily be compared to Growth Spiral, except I think in many cases I would probably rather have Genesis, and it's a card I'm really excited to put into my decks. Last but not least comes Sink into Stupor, one of the new MDFC cycle. 3 mana to either remand a spell or bounce an online permanent is obviously quite a lot. However, it's doing that whilst filling one of your normal land slots with almost no downside, and that to me seems quite flexible and quite strong. I hope you've enjoyed these cards that I'm excited about. If you've seen any cards that you think have been overlooked and are hidden gems in Modern Horizons 3, by all means, put them in the comments.